I'm Kakra Boye Doe, a fourth-year medical student from the University of Kansas School of Medicine, and I will be presenting How Did We Get Here and Where Do We Go From Here? A call to action. This six-part educational series originated out of an epiphany as Vice Chancellor of DEI, Dr. McGee, was encouraged by the success of our community conversations. However, in these conversations, it was clear that there was a discrepancy in the historical account of our country amongst faculty, students, and staff, particularly as it concerned racism. A barrier to recovery and reconciliation is this very discrepancy. As such is the case, I was given the opportunity to write a course description to provide an accurate historical account on the origin of racism, its impact on health outcomes, and what role medicine has on maintaining and perpetuating racism. Through collaboration and revision with the Vice Chancellor's DEI cabinet members, the six-part educational series was approved. Background: stark inequities in morbidity and mortality among U.S. minoritized populations have persisted for generations, with the root cause being structural racism. It is insufficient and harmful to view racism as an isolated event. Doing so fails to address the systemic nature of the racialized construction of knowledge that emerged in the post-Enlightenment world, while perpetuating the structures and systems that uphold racism. This series was initiated for faculty and staff development as part of the Repair Project to address the hidden curriculum that undermines anti-racism instruction within the School of Medicine. Description of the series. Six-part educational series consisting of the following topics: the birth of race, the slave trade, reversing white supremacy, Jim Crow era, civil rights movement, war on drugs, poverty, and police brutality. Each lecture was an hour and 15 minutes long, and following each lecture was an hour-long debriefing session facilitated by Dr. Carrie Francis. This gave us the opportunity to get into more intimate discussions and to really get down to some of the topics that we discussed in lecture. The series objectives are as follows, and I want to emphasize and highlight the first one: deconstruct and denaturalize the idea of race as a biological reality. This was consistent throughout the lecture. Outcomes: pre- and post-survey analysis to assess for completion of the objectives of the series, as well as perception of DEI. Here's a grounding slide showing how we deconstructed and denaturalized the idea of race as a biological reality. Pre-survey: the following prompts I can describe and discuss with options of strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree via Zoom poll report. The results from part one, the birth of race, is as follows. Race as a social construct versus race as a genetic factor. So we see that with this idea, 70% are able to confidently describe and discuss this. But the remaining concepts, that's not the case. So being able to describe and discuss decolonization of health sciences and healthcare, most are not able to do that. History of systemic racism and structural violence from a socio-ecological perspective, again, the majority are not able to do so. Reconciliation, repair, and biomedicine. This was the concept that most struggled with, and we can see as 50% disagree and 12% strongly disagree. Fast forward to part 6, war on drugs, poverty, and police brutality, the last lecture. And we see a great improvement in all of the concepts, with 92% being able to describe and discuss race as a social construct. Again, we see an improvement with 50% being able to describe and discuss this concept. Another improvement in this concept, with 68% being able to describe and discuss this. Lastly, the greatest improvement is in reconciliation, repair, and biomedicine. We see an improvement from 62% not being able to describe and discuss this to 86% neutral, and 7% strongly agreeing that they can describe and discuss this. A post-survey questionnaire consisted of many of the questions that we asked in the pre-survey. So conclusion and future direction. Our repair project is a multifaceted and institutional-wide effort. This six-part series represents an explicit attempt to deconstruct the idea of race as a biological reality. We know that concerted effort towards conceptualization of repair and reconciliation in biomedicine and work towards that goal is necessary. Our ongoing work consists of analysis of post-survey and comparing that with the pre-survey over 6 parts. Lastly, we are implementing this educational series and or concepts discussed in this series into curriculum across all programs across 3 campuses. Thank you for your time.